Okay, Bhavani, take over. Sorry.
MUST was established in collaboration with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, otherwise known as MIT. We also inherited MIT's world-class system and culture.
Our mission today is to provide students and working adults cutting-edge education and skills that are current and relevant to industry needs and ensures 100% employability.
In fact, QS World University rating granted us 5 stars for teaching and learning because of our world-class faculty, 5 stars for employability of our students, and number 1 in Asia for international students.
One of MUST's keys to success is our ongoing collaborations with our industry partners to make sure that our curriculum meets the industry standards present and future. We enable our students to have future internships and employment opportunities. We work with other universities from all around the world to ensure that our students have the best academic experiences.
We specialize in 3 areas: transport and logistics, business management, and information technology.
Our Transport and Logistics School is the front runner in Malaysia with faculty members who have rail industry experience. We are also the founding member of Asia Logistics and Supply Chain Council with prominent industry players sharing their best practices. That's why our students are offered employment even before they graduate.
In this day and age where the pace of digitalization is accelerating, we are continually developing innovative IT programs to meet the needs of industry and the IT world. As a mark of international recognition, the International Telecommunication Union has designated MUST a centre of expertise in the Internet of Things and IP version 6. In addition, MUST is a founding member of the Smart Industry Association Malaysia and has formed partnerships with multinational manufacturers such as Bosch and Daikin.
The business management faculty at MUST is led by industry experts, and this has allowed us to get membership with AACSB, which is the worldwide recognition for business schools around the world. Our MBA program is currently offered in many global centers such as China, India, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, as well as Myanmar. When they complete the MBA program, they are business ready for employability in practically any sector at all. We were already having online sessions with our MBA candidates even in 2019, before the onset of COVID-19 pandemic. This is very important. Why? Because it allows us to combine groups of students from a transnational grouping, so that international exchange of ideas is something really incredible.
MUST is a leading Malaysian university of choice when it comes to PhD programs. We currently have more than 200 active students in our program. We have an outstanding track record in PhD supervision and guiding our students in publishing their research work in emerging fields such as Industry 4.0, digitalization, supply chain management, AI, and more. MUST's world-class faculty and researchers, along with our international recognitions such as AACSB membership, CMI UK, QS World University Ratings, and eQuiz, make us a highly sought-after school for postgraduate education.
Here at MUST, we have Students Experience and Affairs Department, also known as SEED.
Our Student Experience and Affairs Department takes steps to ensure our personal growth through programs that can help develop our communication and leadership skills, as well as teamwork.
We strive for our students to not only have the best academic experience, but also the best on-campus lifestyle experiences. We have weekly ongoing activities as well as different clubs and societies such as the Lunchtime Club, Bowling Club, Esports Society, and so much more.
As a must student, one of the perks we have is learning from Infinity Academy, which is one of the best performing arts training center in Malaysia. You would think that when you're going into technical courses that people are just focusing on IT and transport and communication, things like that. But when we go into performing arts, I saw most of my classmates breaking out of their shell. And it also is a benefit because I gain 10 academic credits.
A must student is someone with high integrity, commitment, great attitude, and good values. I'm glad I've chosen this university as my stepping stone. 100% employability is what must aims for all students. I'm confident that I'll have a bright future.
Join us at must.
Hello and good morning, everyone, to another exciting day of MUST Colloquium. Today we have another keynote speaker. We start with another keynote speech. And today will be delivered by Encik Azman Hassan. Let me read a little bit of his biodata. He is currently the senior consultant in the Pemandu. He is the VP of Pemandu Associates Sdn Bhd. He is the Senior Associate of Actuary Advisory Consultant, Radicale or Radicale, whichever, Concept Sdn Bhd. He's also a consultant in the Global Supply Command of Intel Corporation, USA. He's the Regional Manager of Retail Products Supply, Intel Asia, Country Manager, Logistics, Intel Malaysia, Country Manager, Planning, Intel Malaysia. He is also an agripreneur of Ikabayu Farms. He graduated from the University of Nebraska, USA, in Bachelor of Science, that is Computer Science and Mathematics. His topic for today is a very interesting topic. Let's see what it is. It's about moving boxes in a thunderstorm. Let us welcome Encik Azman Hassan. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. All right. One second. Okay, so it's a weird title for a topic, but you know, it was when you're catching up with friends, right? Professor Prem, for example, we go back, you know, too many years to admit, otherwise you'll know how old we are. Prem, thank you so much for getting me in the session. So anyway, how did I end up here? If you Google Azman Hassan, the most famous is probably Professor Azman Hassan. You're not going to find me. So how did I end up here? Well, it actually started with a conversation, you know, friends catching up with each other after a long time. You know, I have to admit, I'm really thrilled with where Prem is today. I remember back in the day we were discussing, you know, basically operations, and then of course we do chit chat, and you were sharing his aspiration. And I brought the aspiration to our usual monthly meeting with my regional director. And I said, you know, let's invest in people's development, right? We say you want to invest in people development, and what you do is you ask them to go to Intel University. So why don't we look at something different? Because we do have a request for our people to go and take, you know, pick up and be a doctorate candidate. We say, oh, okay, that's interesting. How does that benefit the company? Yeah, the usual management speak. Right? I wasn't able to equate it to dollars and cents, but what I said is that today we operate within a specific construct, right? These are your procedures, this is the how-to, this is the KPIs, and so on and so forth. By having someone who takes a look at the bigger picture, the leading edge research, what is happening out there in terms of technology and so on and so forth, would have side benefit. Of course, my boss also said, as soon as your friend has a PhD, he'll leave. Lo and behold, Prem did leave. But I think it's for the betterment of the country. So I may be part of the giant corporation back then, but I'm also a Malaysian, right? So a loss for the company is a gain for the country, which is really great. So anyway, how did I end up here? So as we were talking, we were discussing things. Of course, current issues came up, the usual 3 slides you see on the left-hand side, which is worrying everybody. And the conversation got to some reflection that I had, which is like from the outside looking in. And this was in the beginning, yeah, not at the current scary number. It feels like we were trying to execute the same thing, but try to do it faster. Kind of like trying to break the 9-second barrier and think we can do it, It doesn't feel like there's been any transformational change in how things are done. And that also overlap with the fact that MUST has a heck of a lot of PhD students, and we thought, maybe there's something that I can be the resource or something just to chat with your guys and see if they could come up with something creative. A couple of days later, Prof. Khairil reached out to me and said, hey, if you're available, we have this PhD colloquium coming up. And immediately I Googled it. What the heck is this? And I have to admit, I got very intimidated by the prospect, right? Here I am, a minion from the boonies, went to university, four prestigious places, University of Nebraska, which I thought was actually in Canada, being asked to share a little bit about stuff to people who are like 200-300 times smarter than me. So what the heck can I do to impress you guys? There's nothing that I can teach you. I should be learning from you. So anyway, I thought, I can tell stories. You are smarter than me. You work harder than me. You work faster than me. But what I can offer is the benefit of the experiences that I have that will maybe trigger some thoughts in your mind about where you want to go, either in your research or in your present work, because I understand about 80% of you are also still working and not just studying. So anyway, on to story time. All right. Knowing that I'm presenting to such an august group, go into that game on mode, preparing for the session. Immediately went to look at the MUST website. First thing that popped up was, established in collaboration with MIT. So more pressure, right? Any new articles about the accolades and so on and so forth. And I went and said, okay, I need to have a storyline that will knock their socks off. Started unpacking the past collateral, which is quite a lot, given some of the past jobs that I've done, right? And of course, once you have collateral, it is juicy, right? You take a look at the content, you say, what is good, what's data, what's a cool graph, and so on and so forth. And, how do I select the best of the slides, reformulate it, repack it, and show something that best represents thought leadership to inspire all of you. And then a message popped up on WhatsApp. It was my old boss / friend / colleague from the same place, Intel, from many, many years ago. And the first thing that came to mind was conversations we used to have. Stop overthinking. I was falling into that analysis paralysis, right? Everything wants to be crammed in, So I said, okay, avoid trying to boil the ocean, Don't synthesize everything. All you have is only a pot, right? Sometimes we fall into this trap of over-analyzing things, trying to put everything into a solution. Step back and think a little bit, right? Less is more. So anyway, so that was my personal journey in preparing for the session. Yesterday I signed into Prof. Mike Goss session, Oh man, I was looking at his deck and his presentation and going like, big pressure. I sent a note to Prof. Sharif, we're like, I need to redo my story because I cannot match what he says. And it's probably the wrong thing to do because it doesn't complement what he did, what he presented, you know. In order to complement, you have to bring something different to the table. Anyway, a little bit of history. So Prof. Khairil spoke a little bit about my background. If you see on the left-hand side, there are three pictures just to keep you entertained. The first is really a dude behind the keyboard operating instructions to enable send to microprocessor, production, distribution, and so on and so forth. The second is the I would not call it a midlife crisis, but at one point I was tired of technology, so I went and got me a farm about 500 meters from a reserve forest. So I was the last inhabitant at the end there. And then the third is after I got lonely talking to myself in the jungle, I went into consultancy, right? That one is a stock picture. The rest of the pictures are mostly mine from the sessions I've done. So anyway, so what happened early in my career? So early in my career, I went in and my job was production control officer, right? Degree in computer science and mathematics, and you give me Lotus 1, 2, 3 to play with? Well, yes, sometimes. Most of the time, they just give me a piece of paper and say, please schedule these following lots into what's called a burn-in oven. So that's all that I did, day in and day out, day in and day out, right? So over time, we've learned that because of the bleeding edge technology that Intel works with, sometimes they are SKPs because while we can easily track product defects and so on and so forth, the data on reliability has some latency. Sometimes the products are already in the warehouse, sometimes the products are already on the manufacturing floor. So over time, it became embarrassing because we ship products that may not perform up to expectation to the clients. So basically what the supervisor said is the goal is 0 escapees. Make sure nothing escapes our factory floor and embarrass Intel. So I said, okay. The rest of us minions, got together and said, let's go and design this whiz-bang solution set so it will never happen again. Some of the steps and processes require business process re-engineering, realigning how we update our manufacturing systems and so on and so forth. And those that we don't know, pretty much in the automation area, we had to hook up with consultancies to get an assessment of how much it's going to cost. So the projected cost was less than 1/100% of our revenue, at the benefit of never being embarrassed again. But the final budget was, this is too expensive because, being in the factory, we are preoccupied by cost instead of value, right? So what did I learn from there? Well, while the goal was given to us, we did not really understand what are the boundary conditions. If the boundary conditions were to be given upfront, perhaps we would have come up with something a little bit more palatable to management. Anyway, so lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, as a farmer or gentleman farmer, what did I do? Well, I grew fruits and vegetables, raised some fish and so on and so forth. The prospect was extremely good. I actually made more money than I made in the factory. I kid you not, right? We actually had an association which takes a look at, the market and say, oh yeah, this is where we can set the floor price, make a nice profit, but this is definitely still lower than what the market is able to support. But lo and behold, after roughly 2.5 years, the customers started coming back, offering a way lower price. To my surprise, they're saying, hey, we're getting this from the association. We're like, oh, that's about half of what it is, right? So we lost track of a couple of things, right? Number one is changes in customer expectations or beneficiary expectations. So that's number one, right? Things move pretty fast in food prices, right? I mean, at that time it went the right way, it went down, unlike today where it's going up. The other thing is lack of understanding of the stakeholders. Yeah, when you are in associations, you have smallholders like myself, and you have really big players, right? If you compare the capacity for raising fish, mine is less than 1/50th of what the big players are. So when they are having difficulties, when there's a supply glut, they go and dump prices. You do it often enough, you move the bar for the customers, right? So lesson number 2, be very aware of the stakeholders and the beneficiaries. Don't be overly focused on how good you are with providing the supply/solutions. Listen to what the customer wants. I know it sounds cliche, but it's very difficult to do, especially when you have to do it continuously. So as I said, I got bored talking to myself in the jungle. Income also not so good after that. So I reached out to a friend of mine and he said, hey, there's something that I can do. I said, oh yeah, there's this organization, why don't you apply? Because we're looking for somebody like you. Oh, anyway, I went into consultancy, specifically with Pemandu, which at the time was under the Prime Minister's department, a unit under the Prime Minister's office, actually. And we did a lot of transformational work, right? And over time, we did both the private sector, public sector, as well as private sector, and routinely run across organizations that says, we want to implement reforms. We want to transform ourselves. So what did they do? Some of them went to apply for the HRDF funds to conduct team building. Everybody came back, roll up their sleeves and go, hey, we are reformed, we are transformed. And then went into their weekly status update meeting, admiring the problem, looking at indicators going like, yes, there's a problem. Why don't you go and figure it out? Which is paying lip service to the issues at hand. But there's also other people who took to heart the lessons that were learned in the transformational buzzword aspects of the workshops. And there are those who actually took a look at the output of the workshop, which are execution plans, KPI dials, how to work in the future and so on and so forth, and deliver results, all got promoted. One excellent example is the governor in one of the states that we worked at in Africa, right? After a new president came into power, she was the only governor that got retained in one of the richest states, actually. So you can't help but think that she is the only person who actually has an execution guy in her weekly meeting. Weekly meeting, yeah, you're talking about the public sector having weekly KPI updates so that they can make decisions to unblock issues, right? So the key lesson from here is brochures do not give outcomes, right? You can have all the plans that you want, but if all the plans, if where the plans end up is your library back there, it doesn't give you anything. If you plan the work, you have to work the plan. Outcomes don't come by itself. Yeah. Anyway, all right. That's a little bit of history. Don't worry. I only have like 9 information slides. Not too much. All right. Moving on. So lots of learning over the different years of work. So I'm going to share a little bit about a possible approach. And I know a lot of you may be pursuing academia for the sake of advancing human knowledge, right? I mean, you have the bachelor's degree guys like me and master's degree guys. The PhD dudes are pushing the boundaries of learning, the peaks of knowledge, yeah? So some of those knowledge would be wonderful if you convert that into action items or plans or implementable solutions, yeah? The applied science part of academia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, all right? Okay. So what are some of the things that you can do? So number one, ask the hard questions to decision makers. I'm going to tell you about a spectacular failure I had while at Intel. At the time, I was working in the head office in Santa Clara, right? So we had this mission. The mission was go and design the next generation supply chain management system. We have hired SAP to be the implementation partner. There is no such enterprise level system at the moment, but make sure that we can still do what we do today. I said, yes, boss, we'll do that, right? So fast forward 18 months later, there is a working system. It runs, it gives results, but the behavior did not change because what we failed to do was to ask the question, what do you mean by we can still do what we do today? Well, you know how it is. Show me the data. If I like it, yes, signed off. If I don't like it, we'll go and play with it a little bit. We failed to ask the question of what is your decision-making matrix? You know, what are your parameters? What's important to you? What does success look like? So when you're characterizing a system, you are instructing it on how to behave or how to react to the input, right? So once you design the system, you have to take the output. Why? Because you already told the system how it needs to behave. So anyway, the slide here is actually an example of a workshop that we did. It's actually in the area of conservation, nature conservation. We were working with, we were sought out by CFN, Center for Nature or Conservation for Nature. This is actually a body that's kind of related to the United Nations goal of, you know, making sure that the environment is taken care of and so on and so forth, with some very, very wonderful mantra, like, you know, by 2030, you want 30% of the earth, both terrestrial as well as the ocean, to be under conservation, because this will unlock 250 trillion worth of value and so on and so forth, right? That wonderful key strategies you can read there: create and expand protected areas, raise public awareness, inspire to accelerate protection of lands, water, and wildlife. And there's mission and vision and, you know, what do we want to see ourselves in 2050, draft papers and, you know, blue books and whatnot, right? So a lot of things to deliver the 30 by 30 to unlock the potential, because that's the right thing to do. So what we said was, let's go and discuss and decompose your 30 by 30 a little bit, because I'm not helping you deliver value, because if all you do is generate the dreaded brochures, right? What are the expected outcomes, you know? How do you measure success, right? How should initiatives be prioritized? And what are the targets by geographic region? Because different areas have different slants to what they're doing, right? Out of this process, what you expect to get is, well, it's really the instruction set that accelerates the delivery of conservation programs. And the first thing that shocked them was that we did not say how to fast track your certification of areas as protected areas, blah, 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 blah. But we said, you know what? If you want to fund conservation, you need to take a look at the social and economic impact to the beneficiaries. It doesn't do any good if you say this is now a protected area, ye shall not fish here, because they need to live, they need to put food on the table. So you need to balance that, right? And what scope are you looking at? What are your priorities? How do you measure success? When you have all those things and make it touch the people that's supposed to touch, then it's more relatable. 250 trillion doesn't mean a thing to the fisherman. 250 trillion doesn't mean a thing to the farmer. If all it means to them is some numbers, doesn't mean anything. So asking the hard questions to decision makers forces them to really reflect on what is it that I want to achieve in quantifiable terms. Okay? All right. item number 2, kind of related. This is also part of the initial deck we did with the organization. One of the issues they had was identifying the location. Once they identify location, they go and do multiplication, square foot, blah, blah, blah. This paper said that there's this kind of economic value that can be unlocked, blah, 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 blah. So we said, we have a pilot site for you. We think it's excellent. It's off the east coast of Malaysia. It's not exactly in the Coral Triangle, but it's close enough that anything that you do here can possibly be either directly replicated or with some configuration localized to the new areas, areas where there's lots of damage to the coral beds due to dynamite fishing and so on and so forth. But wait, although the islands are just off the coast of one of the states in Malaysia, they're all different, right? If you take a look at the demographics, for example, and this was a surprise to me. Pulau Kapas and Pulau Lantengah actually has no registered residents, but there's a lot of people living there, right? And the sizes are also different. So if you want to do conservation from the perspective of managing solid waste, for example, there's very limited thing you do when you don't have the footprint to be able to do that. In addition, there's also the prevalent economic activity. It may be different for different areas, for different islands. There are some common issues, but some are more prevalent in one area than the others. Overfishing, inefficient waste management, and high foot traffic rates. So in order to apply a generic vision to a specific location, you really need to do, strategic workshops with the direct stakeholders. You need to look at each location on its own merits, right? What are the unique features, conditions, and problems of each individual island in order to be able to construct an effective strategic resolution plan. If you don't configure the solution to the problem statement for the specific area, what you're going to do is nice brochure. So when looking at how to apply the new theory or how to experiment on the hypothesis that you came up with, take a look at it from multiple perspectives. Remember, they started out as conservation for nature, right? But the reality is that in order to make it work, you have to show value. In order to understand what is the value that is actually usable for the beneficiary, you have to take a look at a couple of different things. Okay, I seem to have lost my... Okay, all right. Okay, next. When you're looking at making solutions, get those who know to join in the solutioning sessions. I give you a simple example. The Ministry of Health, they may be accountable for making sure that we have adequate hospital facilities at the state level, at the district level, and so on and so forth. But they did not build the hospital by themselves. Yeah, they didn't go in a corner and design this is what the hospital needs to take a look at. This is where I'm going to put where the power comes in, where the water comes in, how the waste is being taken away, and this is how you do fit ups and so on and so forth. They didn't do it alone, right? So they had JKR helping out. They had the local councils in play as well, electricity supplier, water supplier, and so on and so forth. Right? So more often than not, you always have to do a stakeholder mapping exercise. Now, why do you do this? When you have a stakeholder mapping exercise, you are identifying those who can make a difference, real difference, yeah? And what you're doing, if you involve them early enough, you're not planning in secret and trying to implement in public. When you plan in secret and try to implement, the people who are supposed to be helping you will be surprised, like, oh, I'm sorry, I did not realize you were doing this. We're not prepared. We don't have the manpower, no budget, and so on and so forth, right? So what you're doing by recruiting the stakeholder is to actually build a winning coalition. You're also getting their skin in the game, so to speak, yeah? Their upfront involvement so that they know because they are method of working is like this. It's already comprehended in whatever it is that you're doing. Identifying the decision makers. Not everybody is a decision maker, by the way. And some decision makers are not rectifiers. You do have rectifiers, of course, and the rectifiers are not decision makers. So you want to make sure you know who does what. You know, and there's also the implementers, there's beneficiaries, and so on and so forth. One small secret, yeah, when you talk about stakeholders, everybody wants to be a stakeholder. Everybody thinks they have a say, but that is absolutely not true, right? Absolutely not true. You will listen to them because that allows them a venue to vent, for example, you know, but you don't have to take every single input from everybody. So that's why you do the stakeholder mapping, understand their roles, and so on and so forth. Okay. Third cluster of thoughts around this is to encourage participation from first line / frontline personnel. This goes back to my private sector days. Yeah. Whenever we used to send people to conferences or workshops and so on and so forth, you send the department heads. Why? Because they are of sufficient seniority to represent the group. They go in and these guys are talking about SAP transactions. The department managers know nothing about those things, right? It's the people who are operating the consoles down on the warehouse floor that knows it. So when you're designing changes and solutions and so on and so forth, you have to take into account the fact that the experts are there on the front line. They know of the issues, but prior to this, they did not have the opportunity to voice their ideas. Yeah? Okay, so encourage participation from first line or frontline personnel. And by the way, don't just pick people who agree with your ideas, you know, the naysayers, the people who typically in the meeting go like this because they know you're not going to listen to them and so forth. They're actually fantastic in giving alternative solution because they have this inborn desire to look at why something doesn't work. Yeah, you can harness the energy either to test whether a solution is okay or to say, hey, if you were to do this, how would you approach it? And they can give a totally different perspective on how to craft a solution. So that's the reason why you want different levels of knowledge and expertise and experience to join in the solutioning. We have this one rule when we conduct workshops, yeah, whether it's inside of Malaysia or in distant countries, which is you leave your badge outside the door. Of course, the first couple of days will be quite awkward because number one, we don't have a square table. We don't have that classical institutional U setup where the boss sits in front and invites everybody to go and speak, blah, blah, blah. We don't. We have round tables by design. Why? Everybody has an equal say. That's why you leave your badge outside the table. So outside the door. So the first couple of days is really awkward because we're asking the processing clerk, you know, to encourage her to give an idea that may be contrary to what, you know, the equivalent of TKSU or deputy undersecretary may have different thoughts, right? But you need to encourage that, enable them to give the alternative solutions. You know, we were speaking to the VC of Makerere University during one of the sessions we had, right? He said, Azman, you know, I may be the VC of Makerere University, but during the coffee workshop, I learned something new from the farmer. They actually had a farmer in there, and the guy was like, I don't care who you are. And he goes, sir, this solution doesn't work. And I went for my area and went to describe the particular composition of the slopes and the soil density and so on and so forth. And everybody was flawed, right? Including the VC. It's like, while I bring to the table the best practices from around the world, my friend here actually taught me of what is applicable and what is not. So that's why you want to have that rich collection of participants when you're looking at doing solutioning. Okay, moving on. So I've mentioned twice about glossy brochures and why it's bad. So what do you do about it? You actually construct a governance structure. When you talk about what was this fancy word about the governance structure? Well, a governance structure really is a simple body that encourages execution, that values delivery, right? If you were to ask me today, what would I do to ensure that the Malaysia economic recovery gets back on track and we become the best of the best of the best? My first answer is, why don't you look behind you in your nice library and pull out all the wonderful ideas from yesteryear. Take a look at what you have not done. You don't need to generate new ideas, right? We have plenty of good ideas. The issue is execution. You know? Good ideas can fail due to execution, right? Why a governance structure? Establishing accountability, triggered by indicators. By the way, between you and your boss, you have a role to do. So does your boss. He doesn't sit on that chair and earn the big buck by just reading your reports. Yeah, that's not adding value. Okay. Next area, when you work on your project plan, you have detailed activity plans, but it only gives value when it's implemented, and implementation requires continuous problem solving. So that's the secret sauce. Yeah, the plans don't work if you don't do the work, right? And no plan is perfect, so you have to continuously solve problems and remove roadblocks. You cannot be so rigidly tied to what is defined in the ISO 9001 document. Okay. Both in the private and public sector, you always have these silos. Yeah, you need to formalize the working teams, institutionalize routine collaboration, remove that requirement that you have to ask the director who's going to talk to the supervisor, who's going to talk to the man who sits 6 feet from you in order to discuss. Yeah? So when you generate solutions, you have KPIs. Yeah? How do you recognize success? You have the activity step, the implementation. You need to monitor the KPIs and the progress of the implementation as triggers for action, as opposed to where are we today. Use those as triggers. Use the status update meeting instead of admiring the problem to become problem resolution venues. So when you construct a governance structure, you may have 3 layers. Yeah? There's one layer of meeting that does problem solving every single week, empowered to make decisions on behalf of their collaborative organization. Maybe have a second layer that goes up to the business unit or ministry level that says, hey, this is too big because it crosses some boundaries and we're not able to come to a conclusion. But here are 3 suggestions, pick one, right? And there's also the ultimate layer where you go, oh, this is cross boundaries, requires shifting of budget from one area to another, blah, blah, blah. Boss man, 3 possibilities. We recommend number 2. Please make your pick. So that's where you have the governance structure set up so that you can monitor for the results. If you look at the picture on the left-hand side, the one in the middle is actually a fairly high level, not very rigorous, detailed implementation plan. Yeah, it has to do with economic recovery program based on shovel-ready projects, fully funded, and so on and so forth, but has some small things like required signatures here and there, blah, blah, blah. It's 2,950 pages. Okay, 2,950 pages. A lot of stuff there. So what do? You want to file it in the library, or you want to go and work it, right? Plan to work and work the plan. Anyway, I've taken quite a lot of time. Okay, I want to circle back to the title of a session, right? How did I come up with this weird title, Moving Boxes in the Thunderstorm? As I mentioned, the statement came about as we were talking about current issues. Yeah, friends do that, right? So during a crisis, at that time it was, as I said, it wasn't as big as it is now. Yeah, you have your existing processes and procedures and so on and so forth, but the loading or the taxing of the requirements may exceed the system's overall ability to respond. So in order to fulfill the mission, which is moving boxes, what do? You can try to run faster, but as I said, probably already exceeded the system's ability to respond. So you need to solve the problems methodically. There's a thunderstorm going on, right? So you need to shut your ears and be very specific and deliberate in your actions. Everybody wants to know what went wrong, and so lots of noise, yeah? In a crisis, what's the first thing you do? Containment action. Don't listen to or give in to the demand of what is the root cause and so on and so on and so forth. Yeah? Containment action first. Flawlessly execute what works. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. What works, you execute that flawlessly. What doesn't work, you problem solve. The problem solve could be tweaking or it could be total redesign. Yeah. So when things get tough, right, be aware of what is your primary mission. Do not be distracted by noise and so on and so forth. When you are hired to do a special project for companies and you face the 8 directors, they're gonna come with, this is what needs to be done, this is not what needs to be done, this is what needs to be done, because they have their own interest. But as you talk to them, they will have some commonality. So you need to gear towards that commonality, because that commonality will provide the compass or the true north. This is where you're heading. This is your common goal. The other stuff is just nice to have. Yeah. And when you're solving difficult problems, everybody will say it's gonna fail. So if everybody agrees it's gonna fail, why not try the crazy ideas? Why not try the outrageous things? Yeah? After all, people think you're gonna fail anyway. So lose the fear of failure. Go out and do the crazy things, and then when you see the results, just celebrate the success. In that picture, the last one is the picture of the progress of vaccination. Where I've gone through my first jab, I haven't gone through my second jab yet. But as I went through the process, yeah, the pre-screening, the pre-filling, and so on and so forth, I can't help but think that as some smart supply network management guy, they got their grubby mitts on this, yeah, applied the classic job scheduling theory, identified what is the choke point, looked at the accessorial basics and fundamentals that need to be done, moved it out of the way, so that, sometimes it's kind of surprised. Suddenly you find yourself, in front of the nurse with the not so big injection, and then you're done, right? And this is a government doing it, It's like, how can it be that efficient, right? Or giant multinationals suddenly able to mobilize movements of vaccines and so on and so forth, right? With minus 70-degree storage requirements and so on and so forth. So we're coming to the end of my session, I hope this provides some insights. Yeah, you have 3 disciplines here. You have IT, you have transportation and logistics, and you have business management. The 3 disciplines are kind of intertwined, right? Why do we move boxes? We move boxes to make money. Why do we want to make money? So that the company can continue to invest with new products, new services, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And how do you do that? Well, sometimes you need to stitch together the different systems and tools and processes so that things can work together. So common goal, 3 different disciplines. I hope you guys will go and make, the world proud of your achievements. So opening it up for Q&A, back to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Encik Azman. That was a very interesting speech on Thunderstorm, pushing boxes in Thunderstorm, aka solving problem in crisis, where you need focus, do crazy things, and last but not least, don't remember to celebrate successes. And if you look at the steps that he proposes, it's almost like your research steps as well. What is the research question? What are your hypotheses? What are your methodologies and your framework? So So now we open up to questions first, and then we'll let Prof. Prem comment at the end. Any questions from the floor, please? Anything in the chat box? No, there's nothing in the chat box. Anybody has any questions?
Dr. Khairi, we have one question in the chat box.
Okay, can you read it? Because I can't see it.
From Dr. Lal.
Dr. Lal. Okay, have you embraced business dashboard technologies by now?
Okay. I'm gonna try to answer this politely. Yeah.
Polite.
So, if you look at the control room of Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, right? The control tower, wonderful stuff, bling and blang and all that stuff. Yeah. And then you compare that with Lukla Airport. What's the difference? One handles large volumes, the other small volumes. One is big on precision and so on and so forth. The other deals with chaos, right? The one that deals with chaos has one indicator, the ultimate indicator, that supersedes everything else, safety, right? Now, if you really think about it, regardless of size, the one that safety is always a threat has to have the most investment, yeah? So bleeding edge technology monitoring systems and triggers and smart systems and so on and so forth. But that's not the case. Why? The ability to fund different things varies by region and by country. For the kinds of work that we do, we always approach it from a pragmatic solution. I'll give you one example of a challenge that we had with the passing rates at the worst performing high school in Tanzania at the time, right? High-powered delegation went first. Minions went in later. High power went in to the Parent-Teacher Association, got lambasted, and then they sent in the troops, right? The troops came in and said, "Oh, what's the problem?" We did not recreate the processes, by the way. We just brought the book and said, "Have you seen this?" Said, "Oh yeah, I've seen it. Where is it?" "In my library." Okay. And during the problem-solving session, one of the things we discovered is that we're not getting good data because they don't have power, they don't have computer. I say, "Oh, okay, easy solution. Where's your power line?" 3 kilometers away. Okay, this is a district about 200 kilometers south of Kenya. Do I have money to invest in whiz-bang systems? I don't. Right? 4 months to go before their O-level exams. 4 months to go. Passing rate 12.6%. So how do you solve the problem? You have to look at the pragmatic solution. You have the stitching of things. Yeah. You know, the world's economy is run pretty much by Excel, right? Same concept, you know. Except Excel, we don't have Excel. We have standard formats that the people fill in. So why does that work? Well, because every week the ward education officer visits. She goes in, sees the headmaster who has the only barely functioning laptop. No, it was a desktop system, very novel. And this is in 2016. And said, "My computer doesn't work. Here's a template." She goes back to her office and able to connect with the rest of the data set. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, where we can, we apply the leading edge solutions. Where pragmatic, we do what needs to be done in order to make it work. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, let's see. In the chat, there is no question. All right, so Dr. Lal says thank you. Anybody else have any question? Should all the good ideas need to be executed? Muhammad Lutfar says, should all the good ideas need to be executed?
Very good question. Our process, or the process that we use, it is a few steps involved. Yeah? So sorry for not sharing the playbook. I don't believe in sharing the playbook because you don't have a standard set of steps to follow. You configure based on need. So in a sense, that kind of answers your question, right? When you go in, you look at what problem you're trying to solve. You already have the boundary conditions and suggested KPI delts and whatnot, right? So number one, problem statement. Number two, root cause. Number three, prioritize the root cause based on the impact that the root cause has, right? Number four, generate solution hypothesis. Prioritize that. Number five, look at the remaining gaps. Number six, go and check back with your stakeholders. Does this sound like something that you will go behind? Say, oh yes, I want this, I want this, I want this. You say, boss, there's these other things, but to do this, a little bit more money. Can? Yes, no. 20,000 shillings. Okay, we can do this. You have lots of good ideas, but you always have to prioritize. Why? Resources, right? People have wonderful plans that they go and announce and publish and so on and so forth, but it's not backed by budget, whether it's money, whether it's intellectual capacity, or even beneficiary size in order to do that. So no, we do not implement all the good ideas. We actually filter it upfront so that what you have is what fits in the affordability. Remember, this is not cost of implementation. We're talking about the value that you derive. When you talk about value, then you're able to make the judgment on why I'm taking money from Ministry of Economy and give it to Ministry of Agriculture. Why? Because Ministry of Agriculture's initiative unlocks a lot more jobs and economic returns for the nation, as an example. Thank you. Very good question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and now for those who asked question to Prof. Mark Gore yesterday that didn't get answered, if you want to get it answered here as well, you are welcome to repeat the question. Okay, let me read from Gobin here. Can understand the act of the law of a law that established and defined its professional job help in preventing interprofessional rivalry in a multidisciplinary organization during crisis management. So understanding of the act, can that help?
Hey, that's a question for full-blown professor, right? Not me. Prem will know this. When we did the Job 96 implementation, it was the first time that we're converting Intel as a company from a homegrown system for sales and distribution, to an enterprise system. So one of my jobs was actually to do the war-sales analysis. In order to do war-sales analysis, I need to know what was at the time. In order to understand what was at the time, I need to understand what are the existing procedures, terms of reference, and so on and so forth. So to answer your question, yes, you do need to understand what are the rules involved with characterizing the job. But you do not stop there. The thing is, when you seek to understand, go and do something about it. So if there are changes that needs to be done, go and do it. One of the photos that I showed before was actually from Pakistan. Pakistan came out to us and said, brother, help me. Why? Said, our system as it is today is fairly fragmented. I have the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Finance, the Board of Investment, and so on and so forth. But we really need to function like METI or MITI. So how do you merge the multiple organizations together? Because the first thing that's going to happen is the civil service union is going to come back and say, I demand that this be fulfilled. No, you are one country, you are one people, you are one collaborative organization. So let's take a look at what is and suggest the changes to enable the working together. Yes, when you start, there is this, I'm not allowed to get data from MOF because I am from JKR, for example, Works Ministry, right? But what is needed to allow me to work directly with my partner? A letter, So get that in front of the principals and say, boss, we have this solution. Can this be implemented? It doesn't violate this, and that, but it does require an addendum to an existing act, for example. So you do pay attention to it. Where it is a hard stop, you find a way around it or a way to achieve the same control mechanism that is needed in order to make it workable. Okay, thank you for the question.
Thank you. We still have time to read another one from Nishantra of Sri Lanka, moving to Pakistan soon. How did you get the acceptance from shareholders for the culture change?
The first people that we see is probably the highest levels of the organization, right? Like it or not, a lot of these transformational changes come from the transformation office. These are the brainiacs. You're going to join them, by the way. Yeah, the brainiacs say, hey, we need to change this and change that and so on and so forth. And we come with a toolbox. And before we open the toolbox, we ask, dear Mr. President, if you want to do this, these are the things that you will face. You're going to have to make unpopular decisions. You're going to get lambasted in the press. You're going to get this and you're going to get that. And oh, by the way, off and on, we're going to say, Mr. President, we need 15 minutes and you cannot give me 2 months later appointment because I have a decision that you have to make. And by the way, you do not have the option of saying, go back to the drawing board. Why? Because we're formulating the solutions done by the experts. So unless you're smarter than them and you can give an immediate today solution that is better than that, you cannot say no. You have to make the decision. You have to make the hard call. And you can deal with Minister of Social Wellbeing for yanking their budget and giving it to Minister of Sports. Are you okay with that, sir? We actually do have people say, oh, we did not realize that transformation incurs these kinds of political capital, right? And they walked away, which is fine, right? Because being responsible people, whether it's with a company or with a country, you cannot be so passionate about making money that you're letting the clients, pardon the French, screw themselves. It's unethical. You cannot do that, right? We have actually walked away from very lucrative contracts because we felt that it's going to cost you a lot of money, but I don't think you can do it, right? Nigeria, as an example, in the beginning, a lot of support, right? During the last presentation, the Minister of Business, MBNP, Budget and National Planning, yelled at me. He said, how can you claim that there are people who's gonna invest 22 billion? It's like, boss, we did the screening. They had to prove to me or to us that the letter of not support, the letter of financial undertaking is real, that the uptake agreement is genuine. And by the way, we did find a few fake ones because it doesn't have a serial number. You do all that. Are you overriding the solutions that the implementers themselves have formulated? At that time, my hand was shaking. Different countries and whatnot, and praying that nobody stops me at immigration. But you need to shake the tree, climb the mountain and say, are you really passionate about implementing change? Because implementing change is not something that you go for your offsite meeting, come back and say, I'm transformed. No. You change by doing. When you do, then you become. That is the secret. That is the secret. So you're going to find a couple of people like me, fire and brimstone eyes. Don't bring us into a workshop room because what's going to happen is we're going to challenge you until your socks fall off. Do you have the passion to change? If you have the passion to change, prove it to yourself. Do the work. Now you think it's hard? No. Implementation is harder. 10% of the time to do your planning. Do first. Fix all the time, right? Be relentless. Execution, execution, execution. Monitor, trigger for action, problem solve, circular. Do, monitor, act, circular. That is what it takes to change. Not pontificating over how good the new vision is. Not, showcasing the volumes of mission statements. No, do the work. Do the work. That's how you change. Anyway, thank you. Good question.
Wow, that's a good wisdom there. Change by doing, then you become. Wow, that goes down in the history of a wise saying by Encik Azman Hassan. Okay, I don't see anything else in the chat. How did you get? Okay, except there's some good notes before, interesting talk and a lot of wisdoms and stuff like that. Oh, there's another one. Should I read this? No need. Okay, Gobin, we will miss that question from you. Okay, I think we will now pass over to Prof. Prem to say a few things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kari. Hi, Cik Azman. Thank you very much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be with us this morning. And I also thank you, being an ex-Intellian, that you have given me the opportunity to do my PhD and got me the scholarship, the Intel scholarship to do the PhD. And I still remember the moment that we had together discussing about my topic, my problem statement. And audience, just now, Cik Azman was talking about problem statement, Now, when we write the problem statement for our PhD work in chapter 1, there is a term that is called a triangulation, A triangulation refers to multiple methods of data source in framing up your problem statement according to patent 1999. So what I did when I was writing my problem statement, I got Cik Azman as the industry player to put in as one of the source to highlight that this is a problem. Apart from academic reviews to say there's a gap, in the body of knowledge. So I got the industry guys also to speak and say, yes, there is a gap here. And the other one was academicians. So I got 3 sources. One is literature, that is the past published journals, to look at the gap to frame my problem statement. The second one was from academia, who are really like gurus in the field. So what I did, I had the opportunity during my time, if Cik Azman can remember, Professor Howley from Stanford came to MIW Intel warehouse to conduct the RFID, in 2001. That was also an opportunity given by Intel to me. So I had a very good, exchange of idea with Professor Howley. And Professor Howley is a guru for supply chain in the world. I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to him. And I still remember he introduced the word which is called scalability in supply chain. Until today, I can remember. So that was the second, support that I got to frame my problem statement. And the third one was from Cik Azman, who was actually the supply chain guy for Intel. Cik Azman was experienced. He did not share much. He was actually taking the lead for supply chain, not only for Malaysia, and we set benchmark for Philippines, Costa Rica, and all the other warehouses. So I got Cik Azman, and then another one, I also got it from the GM of AMD. So I had opportunity to discuss with them. So that was a triangulation approach. So today, whatever Cik Azman have shared, you can actually quote these, saying the Colloquium PhD 2021 in MUST, and quoted by Azman that this is what he said to strengthen your problem statement. Not just looking at problem statement from the literature review alone. It's not sufficient. Of course, you can get through your PhD, but that is not really supportive enough. It is just a literature review. So I think today we all had the opportunity to look at the triangulation approach for PhD, which was actually called out by patent 1999. Please Google and see the triangulation approach for framing up your problem statement. All right. Now, I must say something about Che Azman. Yeah, Che Azman's leadership. If in one single sentence, if I can say Che Azman's leadership, he is a port in a storm. I repeat, he is a port in a storm. It's not easy. Yeah? Like in Bahasa, they said, sorry, pardon my colleagues, international fellows. Like in Bahasa, they said, seperti telur di hujung tanduk. Yeah, it's not easy to be there at that position. Yeah, it's always very shaky. Yeah, but then you need to stay calm despite all the challenges, right? So Che Azman was like that, and I can even quote an incident. Why I say Azman is a port in a storm. Yeah, there were once in 2002. Yeah, the logistics department, we actually missed shipment, important shipment to customer. Yeah, because we couldn't catch up with the flight, the FedEx flight, which was 2 p.m. taking up from Penang Island. Yeah, so we missed the flight, so we missed the shipment. And what happened? All the managers of Intel, the customer service manager, the logistics operation manager, and transportation manager, F&D. So all of us were sitting down, and I was in the room, and it was 6 p.m. when we were sitting down and arguing, The customer service was pointing at operation pointing at transportation department, trying to get a scapegoat, who to assume the responsibility of the failure. And during that time, Azman have this habit of, not habit, he normally goes for his table tennis playing in the evening. If you still remember Azman, yeah? He used to do that, right? So Azman was actually walking coming back from his daily routine of table tennis with the bat in his hand. And he saw, the Intel rooms, they have a glass. Yeah. So he peeped and saw that we were sitting down, a group of us. So he knocked the door, he came in, he said, hey, what you guys are doing? It's 6:30 p.m., you guys supposed to go back home, yeah? And then the customer service manager, she stood up and said, oh, Che Azman, we missed the shipment. And now we are discussing, we're troubleshooting what actually happened, And Azman, all of us were reporting to Azman. And you know what Azman said? Hey, you guys better go back home. And the customer service manager said, no, we missed the shipment, so we need to troubleshoot, And he said, Azman, ask a question. Now, the missing of shipment today, what is the DPPM for the year? Defect part per million for the year. That is your KPI, right? What is the defect part per million? And the logistics person, said that it is very, very little, because we missed about 5 customers' shipment. In a day, we ship almost about 200, 300 customers, and we miss 5 customer shipment. And if you table it back to the quarter or the year, very, very insignificant, very small. Then Azman said, then why you guys are wasting your time? The KPI was given to you all. Defect part per million in the logistics is 0.05%. And why you guys are just sitting down wasting your time? Go back home, But still, we were young, so we were like gung-ho, like Kiasu syndrome, want to show that we are very strong. So we say, no, we are trying to, really troubleshoot so that we don't repeat this mistake. So Azman say, you should stop troubleshooting. Listen to me. What you should do is, did anyone send an email to the customer now that the shipment is missed? Did you do that? You do that not? Then everybody was stunned. We missed that. We didn't send the email notification to our customer that we missed the shipment. He said, Azman said, hey, that is the first thing you guys need to do. Keep the customer informed. Don't let the customer ask you. That is the first thing you need to do rather than sitting down and brainstorming on the issue. Then everybody kept silent. Azman came to my laptop and he just closed my laptop. No shutdown. Huh? He just closed my laptop. Prem, go back home. He said. So that is the real experience that I got working with Azman. So if I, as I said, if I can put him in just one sentence, he is a pot in a storm. Very cool, calm person. Like how the what do you call the engineer Eugene Crank, the flight director of Apollo 13, when they had an explosion, how coolly he took the situation. So like that's Azman Hassan. Yeah. So I'm happy that we had this session with Azman, and also I'm able to bring up what leadership really means here. I'm not saying Azman is a people-oriented man. He is a task-oriented man. I know him. I'm not saying he's a people-oriented man, but what I'm saying is situations, and he's calm enough to tell what actually need to be done. What is the priority? Yes, troubleshooting is important to know where the misses happen, why the misses happen. But priority setting, what is the first thing we need to do? Yeah. So I think we had a good session today with Azman. And for the rest, especially the international participants here, Pemandu is actually the engine for Malaysia, which actually looks into the performance, and delivery of the public sector in Malaysia. So Azman was actually appointed there as to be the advisor. Yeah. So yes, his position is very high, and he's a very he has got wealth of knowledge. Yeah. And thank you, Azman, for taking your time today to be with us and sharing your wisdom, your experience, your wisdom with us. Yeah. As how I enjoyed working with you, and you sponsored me. You got the sponsorship for my PhD, Intel sponsorship, and I still remember it. And thank you very much. And because of your blessing, I'm here today taking the lead in Malaysia University of Science and Technology. Thank you, Jasman, once again. And back to you, Dr. Khairi. Yep.
Thank you very much, Prof. Prem. I cannot help but say this, that as I watch you talking, the passion of you talking and the way you're talking, what you said to Encik Azman, and I know Encik Azman just for a couple of weeks already, you are both like a pot in a thunderstorm. And I hope some of that will trickle down to me too. All right, very good. Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Prem, and thank you very much, Encik Azman, for that wonderful speech, and I'm sure everyone likes it too. Someone says it's very inspiring. Yeah. Stay for a while. We are going to have a presentation on ISCEA by Dr. Havinda, and you'll see how our strong relationship between ISCEA and MUFT. Okay, Dr. Havinda, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Bhavani, I think I will share my slides today.
Sure, Doctor.
And I hope my laptop will behave today, yes.
All right, sure.
Let me see. Okay. I guess this is visible.
Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, in fact, the talk this morning by Jay Azman, it's really inspiring. And you see, sometimes problem solving is not about just following rules blindly. It's about being very responsive. And one of the areas where we need to be responsive very strongly these days is in supply chain. Some time ago, Prof. Prem decided to undertake an initiative, like many other good initiatives that we have taken in the university, to reach out to the International Supply Chain Education Alliance. This is like the body that's responsible for international education in supply chain. Of course, we have Chartered Institute of Supply Chain and other chartered bodies. The difference between those and the International Supply Chain Education Alliance is that this is an alliance that brings in 3 different parties. It brings in the regulators, the educators, and the operators. Yeah. So in the course of those discussions, actually, Prof. Prem was asked to present, or rather develop, one of the certification modules. And being a workaholic, which those of us who work with him, we know. So we also sometimes drag along with the workaholic syndrome. Being a workaholic, he was able to actually take it out within a matter of a week or so. And one thing led to the other. And then ISCEA International invited Prof. Prem to run the regional growth of this supply chain education alliance in this part of the world, and they invited him to become the president of ISCEA Malaysia. Yeah, so right now Prof. Prem is the president, and we are part of his team. As you can see, the CEO is Ms. Jivarani, the the COO is Mr. Amjad. I'm the academic officer. The chief financial officer is Mr. Tanga, and our digital marketing officer is Ms. Gomati. We are just a very small starting team of people, but we can see that there is already momentum. Yeah, so we are building things up. Now, to fulfill the academic pillar, or to strengthen the academic pillar, we have invited good names from within the academic world. Prof. Datin Sri Dr. Suhaiza, Prof. Jeffrey Williams, who is also our colleague, Associate Professor Dr. Zul, Prof. Azmawani, Associate Professor, and she's also a technology registered person, Rosita, Prof. Dr. Balakrishnan, Associate Professor Dr. Zoraimi, Dr. Mohammad Hilmi, our very own Associate Professor Prof. Said, Reza as we call him, and a person who has supported us many times before in our colloquiums, and indeed as an external examiner, Prof. Dr. Abu Bakar and Dr. Kavida. All of these are our academic partners, our advisory board, to make sure that the conceptual framework of what we put out there in our professional certification is also fulfilled. So in a word, what is this ISCA all about? It is a body to certify that an individual has achieved a certain level of skills in a specific area of supply chain. Yeah. These are some of the authorized knowledge service partners. These are some of the customers of ISCA worldwide. Yeah, and you can see some big names there with Samsung, FedEx, Eaton, and Ford. So what's the vision? The vision is that we are dedicated to bringing the latest thinking in smart supply chain. So a smart supply chain is a word that we are using now to mean that we are Industry 4.0 ready. Yeah. So rather than saying Industry 4.0, because the way the world's moving, we might need 5.0 pretty soon. So we are sticking to the word smart. And smart would mean that we are Industry 4.0, 5.0, 7.0 as it moves. Yeah. So smart supply chain strategy development by collaborating with partners, as I said just now, from industry, regulatory agencies, as well as academia. And we hope that our certification programs will make anyone who takes these programs business ready. The good thing about ISCEA is that anyone can study for the certification and get through it. So in the last month, 12 of us from Malaysia University of Science and Technology, including yours truly, we went through this program of certified strategic supply chain professional examination, and all 12 of us are now certified strategic supply chain professionals. Yeah, and you can use those letters behind your name. So now my name's got a little longer. Yeah, the mission is of course to be a center of excellence for SSCM, to reach out to supply chain professionals, to provide all players within the supply chain management universe a platform to interact with one another and identify opportunities for value creation. Now, membership to this community is basically not just to collect certificates, it is also to network. It is also to build on each other's value. Yeah, and we are hoping that this will happen in this part of the world. So currently the ISCA certifications that we have are these ones that are listed here. The one that we are going to focus on that's coming up now is the buzzword of these days nowadays, and that is sustainability. Yeah, so we are presenting to the world certified sustainable supply chain professional certification, and the details of this we will be announcing pretty soon. In fact, one was just held in Singapore last month, and we will also be having this program. And at the end of the program, it's an online program. You get this certificate and you get to use these letters, CSSCP, with your name, so that people know that you are a certified professional. Certified professional because you have taken a professional exam, different from just an academic paper. Yeah. So the ultimate focus of our supply chain alliance would be comprehensive supply chain education, integrating sustainability, supplementing with real industry examples, because the course leaders are all industry people, applicable to all global industries, and this is true. I think many of you here who are in our PhD community are doing so many different topics, but I realize that many of those topics touch on supply chain, whether you are directly involved in transportation and logistics, or agriculture, or fashion, or energy, or education, or money, because supply chain of money, supply chain of data, supply chain of any product or service is within the ambit of supply chain strategy. Yeah. So we hope to educate employees and industry, and the end goal is, of course, to up everybody's game. Yeah. So this particular program on sustainability talks about optimizing your supply chain. Yeah, finding solutions. Criteria, prerequisite, you should have some basic supply chain knowledge. That's recommended. Where you don't have knowledge, passion is good. Yeah, I think if you have passion, that will work. The delivery methodology for now will be online, but we have both online and face-to-face facilitation for this kind of programs. The language is, of course, English language program. So the way we did it was we went through our training, and the examination. Before the examination, you are allowed to have 3 test run, multiple choice questions, 30 questions in each run. And by the time you have gone through your manual, you've gone through your lectures, and you have gone through the 3 test runs, you'll get a pretty good idea of what the final exam is going to be like. And then the final exam is a 3-hour exam, 150 questions. But if you have been diligent, you can often finish it within 2 hours. Yes. And the fees is US 1,600, but you can see I've put a red sign there, meaning to say that there must be some good news for you, isn't it? Yeah, for all the mustians. Yeah, we come to that in a while. Yeah, so these are some of the programs that these are some of the topics that we will be covering in global supply chain sustainability program, foundational topics, strategy and planning, tactical considerations, and related topics. At the end of the day, if you are in a management position where you are a supply chain professional, or you are in a decision-making role where you need to use the services of supply chain professionals, this will definitely help you very much. Yeah, because this is practical, real-time information that will benefit you. Yeah, so this is what we are talking about: online proctored exam. You have practice exam for 30 minutes, 25 questions. No passing criteria, but the final exam is 180 minutes. I believe that's 3 hours, 150 questions. The exam will be from USA. The certification is also from USA. Yeah. So the certification is a global certification. The only catch is you must get at least 105 questions correct, because passing criteria is 70%. Yeah. And so the schedule is on the last day of the workshop, you will take your exam, and you will get the results actually instantly. Yeah. So this is a perfect program for all supply chain sustainability professionals. If your organization needs this to be conducted on a group basis, let us know and we will try to work it out on a group basis. If you want to take this program individually, also let us know, and we will be happy to reach out to you. Yeah. And so there are 24 classroom hours that will be led by an experienced supply chain management expert. We are happy to say that Prof. Prem is recognized as one of the supply chain experts in the world, which is what actually got us into Kedge Business School. And maybe today, Dr. Kari, I will take 3 minutes extra to show the beautiful slides that I prepared for KBS, but we'll come back to that. Yeah. So you get study guides with all the slides and exercises. There is a program review, and you have practice questions with multiple choice. Yeah. So I know sometimes busy professionals don't like exams. I know even researchers don't like exam. The good thing about research is that you are putting your own thoughts out. It's very much an output process. Yeah. And exams is like an assessment process. But it was not so bad. I can tell you that because I just went through it last month. Yeah. So why getting certified is important? Well, the important thing is you need to be recognized around the world. You need to take control of your future. You belong to a community of experts, and personal achievement, of course, satisfaction. But that's not all. All of this comes together to drive your career, to give you the best job opportunities, and help you to take control of your future. Yeah. So successful candidates will be able to use the acronym of whichever certification that you get through. Yeah. Right now we will have 7 of those coming through. And now this is the great news. Yeah. The special discount that we are having. It is not US 1,600 anymore. So the discounted price for must students will be US 500. Yeah. Which is less than 1/3. Yeah. And so please reach out to us, and we will give you more information about this. You can reach out to me, or you can reach out to Nurul, and we can then keep you in the loop as to when will be the next program that will be coming up, and we will send you all the details as we go along. So don't wait, register now. Yeah. And I think I want to say this. I'm not saying this as a marketing person. I'm saying this as someone who has gone through it, and I find real good value. Another area where we want to bring good value to you is, of course, in the area of the master's program. As I was saying yesterday, I hope that you will take these messages back to people who need them, because there is nothing better than sharing good information about education. I think if you can trigger to someone that they should improve themselves by getting a certified education, now that's a different thing. Yeah. So we are hoping to bring world-class education to you, and for that reason at School of Business, all our programs at undergraduate and master's level, our BBA and MBA is a dual award from Chartered Management Institute. And now, as we mentioned yesterday, we have already started the process of getting membership of AACSB, which is the American Standard of Education, Best Education, and ACQUIS, which is the European standard, world standard of best education. Yeah. So we have already started our journey on this at MUST School of Business. And those of you who are actually doing your PhD in management, you also have a kind of a double relationship with us. You have a direct relationship with IPS, who might be your parent, and we are the uncles, because PhD in management is also linked to business school. Yeah, and so this memberships and awards, which we mentioned yesterday, that you can see the 5-star rating system. If you come to a university, what do you want to do? You want to learn. Yeah, and we are happy to see that QS recognized us for teaching 5-star. You learn so that you can get a job, a better job. And the other one is employability. So we are very honored actually that we have 5-star rating, and these are basically your assurances that you have a very good learning environment, yeah, here at MUST. So, and now the news that I wanted to share with you, because of all these efforts that we have been making, we now are able to bring to you a world-class MBA. Yeah, and this world-class MBA is MBA from a Triple Crown University. Yes, that is the Kedge Business School of Bordeaux, and the Kedge Business School of Bordeaux will provide a MBA, a blended MBA, not just for Malaysia, but for anyone who is within the Asian region, as a dual degree award. Yeah, and what does Triple Crown mean? Triple Crown means that they are fully accredited with the Association of MBAs, they are fully accredited with EQUIS, and fully accredited with AACSB. So the teaching standards are very high. In fact, I've been going through with them. Every week we have an online meeting with them, and the 8 different management pillars that they have. Within that 8 pillars, there are 21 components of amazing case studies, including personal professional development. And I'm tempted to do MBA myself again. Yeah. And like I told you yesterday, I have friends in America who have 3 master's degrees. So don't let it hold you back. If you have already an MBA, there's no harm in trying to get a world-class MBA going. Yeah. And so that's basically some of the things that we are going to talk about with you. The ISCEA certification, as well as the MBA from Kedge Business School, all of these things coming soon your way. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Dr. Khairi, for letting me share my messages this morning. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harvey, for that very exciting and useful sharing. I know Dr. Lal wants to ask a question, but for the sake of time, Dr. Lal, you can ask in the other forum later on. I will open this up for our external partner. If you have any question for Dr. Harvey on the 2 topics that he talked about first. Alternatively, you can contact Ms. Nurul or Dr. Harvey himself by email or WhatsApp. Maybe Dr. Harvey, you want to type in your contact.
I'll type in my contact, yes, my email and my mobile. I'm just a WhatsApp away.
Okay. And Nurul, if you are here, you may want to do the same. Okay. Anybody from our partners? Otherwise, I'll pass over to Prof. Prem to do a closing before we move over to our other session. Thank you.
Okay, I think good. First of all, we started the day with Cik Azman, very inspiring, personal sharing, with a lot of sentiments to good practices. Yeah. Okay. And then we had Dr. Harvey sharing about the ISCEA. Yeah. So the ISCEA is actually to help institution to bring in the supply chain knowledge, benchmarking and best practices. As you can see, the academic board of ISCEA Malaysia, we are putting all the public universities, professors who are in the area of supply chain. We put them all together, and this is how we take it out. Yeah. So we are today the Putra Business School. I think some of you may know Putra Business School is one of the top tier business school in Malaysia too. That school is also going to work with ISCA to offer CSSCP program. Yeah, and we are also going to reach these ISCA programs to Dubai, to Calcutta, and Nigeria. Yeah, and our partners are there. I saw just now one of the questions posted by our student asking whether GIV Jiwa asking about whether we are going to take this program to African countries. Yes, we are going to take it to African countries. So even if you have your partners anywhere, as we can see, if you go to ISCA website, you will really see what actually Dr. Harvey has mentioned. Yeah, the ISCA website clearly what you call reflects that the ISCA program is something which is very, very inspiring. This is, if I may just take 2 minutes here. If you go to Google ISCA, you key in ISCA, you'll come to the ISCA page website, and then you look at it, you enter the website, you enter the website, and you can see the certification like CSSCP, CSCP. You look at certification, it's US 1,600, but we managed to get it down to 500 US. And MUST is not interested in making money, but we are just keen to ensure that all of you have access to supply chain latest knowledge. And for your information, this particular program was actually designed by me together with 2 more professors from Penn State University of US and also West Virginia University of US. And together with us, I also had in my team Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, and Microsoft in the team. And these are the 4 modules. Module 4 and 3 were designed by me. Module 1 and 2 were designed by the others. So I have a very strong touch on this program, and we are here for knowledge sharing. So let us know if you are interested, if you're keen, as an individual or as an organization. Just now Alex shared that he said that maybe my organization would be interested. Yes, if your organization is keen, please do let us know, and we will surely have a discussion going with you. With that note, thank you very much for your strong participation, and we look forward for the following agenda for today. Thank you. Dr. Kari, back to you.
Thank you, Prof. Prem. We will now log out from this section, and we will move on to the other, for students and staff of MUST. We will move over to the other session, the other link that we've given you. Okay, thank you, everyone. See you again soon.